Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm the Timeister, and welcome back to another episode of the Greater Timbukton series. In this episode, folks, we're going to be developing Ernest Island. Ernest Island is a small island right off the coast of the Slayton Peninsula, just a few kilometers from downtown Burton. It's mostly housed by rich and retired people. It's more of a relaxing island. So there's one main road that goes right through the main part of the island, as you can see here, and there's a whole bunch of little streets branching off of that main road going into various neighborhoods, into little subdivisions. So this episode, guys, I'll be honest, won't feature anything particularly interesting. It's pretty much going to be entirely residential with a few little commercial shops here and there. However, the island will feature some nice coastlines and a more luxurious section on the northern tip of the island, so that'll be pretty interesting. And yeah, that's pretty much what's going to happen in this episode. Alright, so now that I've laid down the sort of road layout on the island, I'm going to start to work on this bridge right here, and it's quite interesting as I'm using a nice bridge asset that I had found a long time ago in the workshop, and this fits perfectly in this location. Its dimensions and its length is perfect for this type of situation right here. And with this island being quite rocky and with it having like a high elevation, it made it quite interesting to build here. So one problem I was having is because this land is so elevated and the bridge is so high up into the air, these pillars were just kind of looking weird. So I plopped down some huge rocks that I also found on the workshop at some point in time, and I mean, this just really accents this entire area, and it inspired me to start plopping these rocks a little bit everywhere on the map, just because, you know, this region is quite rocky. You know, it's not like fertile plains or anything like that. It's a very jagged and rugged landscape, so started to plop down some large rocks and things. The only problem with that as well that I've noticed is when you plop down these huge rocks beside a coastline, it seems to sort of interfere with the water, and it glitches out, and it doesn't make it look very pretty. So, I mean, I just try to ignore that as much as I can. And I'm sure there's some sort of way to fix it. Maybe if I move the rocks in a certain way, or just plop them a little higher up on the coastline, it'll probably stop doing that. But I mean, it doesn't really bother me that much, and it doesn't show all that bad. I mean, anyways, what I'm going to start working on right now is a multi-story retirement home, or some old folks apartments, whatever you want to call it. And, you know, it's for, I guess, the richer citizens that want to live right by the coastline, that don't own a home and they'd rather live in apartments. So this is exactly what I'm building here. And again, I'm not going to go into too much detail here, as it's not an area of high focus I find in the city. And I mean, the reason that I sort of focus on different areas of Burton and Timbukton is I don't want to focus too much energy and waste too many props on, you know, suburban areas or little residential areas. I'd rather focus on some unique parts of the city, such as downtown. I'm planning a large airport eventually on the Timbukton side of the river. You know, various high interest locations I'd rather focus more intensely on. So these generic residential sections, although they look really nice and they're really cool, and don't get me wrong, they're an important part of the city, I don't really, you know, want to spend too much time on them. So that's in case you were wondering. So here I'm just plopping down some power lines onto the island here to service the residents. And this is actually quite challenging. The power lines in city skylines, I'm not a big fan of the way that they work. I don't find that the span is long enough between them. I think it should be, you know, I think like 1.5 times the length that's the limit in the game right now. I mean, that would be perfect. But I mean, nonetheless, you do what you make do with whatever you can. And right now I'm just plopping down this little power station here. And right on the bottom of this hill will be the more luxurious part of the map. However, with most of the island being developed in the 1940s, 1950s, most of the houses will be within that era, a lot of contemporary and quite a bit of Victorian as well. There was a few houses on the island in the 40s for some rich citizens, but as we move north onto the island, especially with the luxurious section, a lot of the houses would have been built maybe in the 70s, 80s, even into the 90s. Especially with these large old folks homes and apartments here, those would have been built in the 80s and 90s, so they're a little bit more modern. A lot of these houses have this sort of Cape Cod look to them. So now I'm going to start to develop the rich part of town, and because this area is quite small, I felt like it would be more appropriate to densely populate it, to plop houses one right next to the other. And there's actually a few neighborhoods in my area which are somewhat like this to a lesser extent. A lot of people in my area have some little summer cottages, and they're not very big. It's very rare to see very big summer cottages in my area. I've been down to Florida multiple times, and I mean, just the amount of luxurious giant summer homes, I mean, it's just astounding. You can go in pretty much any little island in Sarasota or Tampa. That's where I mostly stay in Florida, and I mean, it's just crazy the amount of wealth in those areas. So I mean, it's sort of the case in my area, but to a lot of a lesser extent. In my area of the map in New Brunswick, we get a lot of tourists from other provinces, especially Quebec, and a lot of people will have their little summer cottages, and they'll come down for a couple of weeks in July and August. It's the busy time of year. But this is sort of what I'm trying to represent here, but to a little bit more of a bigger extent. I know in and around Halifax, there's quite a bit of these large sort of Cape Cod houses here and there. Halifax is quite similar to Boston. I think they're actually sister cities in real life. They have that sort of Celtic vibe to them. So I mean, both cities are very similar. So you get a lot of Cape Cod type housing in Halifax. So everybody here is sort of gonna be nestled in their little thing, and I love the way this turned out here, because it's this little plateau that's on the bottom of the cliff, and I put a lot of trees and stuff on the cliff. So as you look down into this little wealthy section here, it's all nestled into its own little corner. So yeah, everybody's gonna have their own dock. Everybody's sort of gonna be fenced in. It's a pretty nice spot, honestly. In my opinion, I made pretty good use of the vanilla assets as well. I mean, half of the assets that I plopped down here are vanilla, and I mean, they look pretty good. If you're willing to take the time to edit them a little bit and to change around some of the props, I mean, obviously I could do a little bit more than I'm doing to make them look even better. But again, I mean, this is not really a focus point on the map, So as I'm plopping along here, I just thought that I'd make it a pretty important message. It's regarding the Aubrey City series. Now, I haven't made an Aubrey City video in probably close to a year now. And I'm sorry to say, folks, but it looks like it's going to be the end for Aubrey City. I haven't worked on it as much as I'd like to. I've mostly focused on some other projects and in this series. So that right there put a little bit of a damper on it. And the other aspect that caused its demise was a lot of technical issues that I was having with the map being so outdated, and some of the older assets and mods that I was using just caused so many problems that I wasn't really having any fun anymore in Aubrey City. I didn't really feel the drive to continue it, so I felt it was probably best to pull the plug on that project and to wish it farewell. So I know a lot of you are probably going to be upset for that fact. I know a lot of you were starting to get into that series and start to I guess feel a bond with Aubrey City, and so did I. I mean, it's an important build in in my city building career. And I mean, I'm sort of sad to see it go, but at this point it was being a little bit more problematic than I would have wanted it to be. So I decided that that was going to be it for that series. I know that I told you guys I was going to work on continuing the series later on this year, but it doesn't look like it's going to work out, guys, so I'm really sorry for that. But that's okay, because it leaves some room for some new challenges, some new series, and I have no plans on stopping with this series here. So I mean, until the save breaks, or until, you know, something goes dramatically wrong, or for whatever, I'm just going to continue going at Timbukton, and we'll just see where it goes from here. I'll be honest, the part of the series that I'm most excited for is downtown Timbukton. You know, that's the soul of the entire map. That's the, you know, the centerpiece, I guess, of this entire build. There's a lot of aspects of Timbukton I'm really excited to get started on, and I'm sort of basing the whole project on Rockport that I had built in SimCity 4. So a lot of the landmarks in that city are going to be rebuilt in this version, such as the University of Timbukton. There's going to be a large stadium downtown. So a lot of buildings and landmarks are going to be sort of transferred into the city Skylines version of Rockport, which has been renamed Timbukton. So with all that being said, we're pretty much approaching the end of this episode. It wasn't a very long episode. It was sort of a filler episode, if you will. I was just sort of on autopilot and finishing up this island, so it wasn't a very extensive project. But that's alright. We're moving on to some more interesting things in the next couple of episodes, and I anticipate finishing Burton within the next 5 or 6 episodes, depending on how everything goes and how everything plays out. Right now, as of releasing this episode, I have about an episode and a half worth of footage left to edit. So that is pretty much in the works for now, and I can't wait to release that to you guys. And I really can't wait to start on Timbukton as well, you know, because that's, like I said, it's going to be a pretty extensive project. It's going to be pretty fun. So yeah, guys, I really hope you liked this episode, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up. Also, be sure to subscribe to the channel. It means a lot to me, and it'll make sure that you're up to date with all the new videos that come out. And I'm going to start to release videos on a normal schedule again, so once every week and a half to 2 weeks. Depending on how everything goes, I might be a little late sometimes, as usual, but you guys are probably quite used to that now. So thanks for the support anyways, guys. I mean, it means a lot, and as much as, you know, I'd like to make more videos, it's just, it's so hard to find the time. But I love it. It's a ton of fun. So anyways, until the next episode, guys, please take care. Also, be sure to stay till the end, because I got a couple little cinematics at the end there. And also, before I forget, be sure to check out the Discord page for all the news on some new City Skylines stuff. And if you want to be the first to get notified when I release new videos, that's the perfect place to check them out. So be sure to check that out, guys. Until the next episode, guys, please take care.